Anybody ever been to NASA's Goddard Space Center? Anybody had a tour of NASA? They brought me in last year to speak to them about the future of innovation, the future of manufacturing, the future of the space industry. And I tell you, it's a fascinating place. You go into what they call the shake and bake building. And this is where they subject every single piece of spacecraft that they are assembling to the stresses of launch. So they've got a room which essentially has two 90-foot-high subwoofers in the room. And they said, if we brought you in here and we turned these on, you would die because they're going to generate like 2,000 decibels. And I was kind of honored to go into NASA and talk to NASA about the future of the space industry, the future of manufacturing. This is one of the most high-tech manufacturing facilities in the world. And when I met with them, and I was on stage talking to a group of their people, I started out my presentation with 3 statistics, 3 observations, 3 things that they should think about to understand how quickly our world is changing today. Now, I'm going to share those same numbers with you right now. Here's the very first one. There was a study that was done in Australia of the education system, and it was looking at how quickly careers are changing, how quickly knowledge is evolving. They've come to the conclusion down there that 65% of kids who are in preschool today will work in jobs or careers that do not yet exist. Think about that. Okay, if you've got a child, kindergarten, grade 1, they're going in their very first year, formative years of knowledge. The likelihood is 7 out of 10 of those kids are going to work in a job or career that doesn't even yet exist. Well, let me spin that around, because what we are witnessing right now is the emergence of new careers, and it's happening before our very eyes. So, a whole bunch of folks. How many of you today carry around a smartphone? Everybody's got a smartphone, right? Because cell phones are the new fashion. A study was done in the US that suggested that your social standing today is based upon the technology you carry around. In other words, if you go into a booth somewhere and you take out a flip phone, people are going to look at you. What a loser, you got something from the olden days. Right? So think about this. We've got smartphones in our pockets. We've got GPS in our pockets. And we've had, in the last several years, the emergence of all this spatial, S-P-A-T-I-A-L, all these geographic information databases. And we are witnessing the emergence of a brand new career of people today known as location intelligence professionals. Think about what is happening. You can Google that phrase. They have conferences. They are writing business applications. They are writing manufacturing applications. They are developing the software, the technology, which is going to power our next generation of vehicles. So here's a career that is emerging before our very eyes. It's one thing I spoke to NASA about. The second observation I pulled up for NASA was this. A study done in the US, if you're taking any type of degree today based on science, so anything agriculture, architecture, engineering, anything having to do with medicine, we're in a situation in which there's so much change going on right now, so much new knowledge emerging, that it's believed that half of what we learn in our very first year of a college or a university program is obsolete or revised by the time we graduate. You walk around this show, you walk around IMTS, and try to imagine what this show is going to look like 10 years out. Try to imagine how much the world of manufacturing will have changed, given a world in which change is happening so fast. Third observation, spent some time with a digital camera manufacturer, talking with the CEO. He indicated when they bring the typical digital camera to market today, they figure they've got about 3 to 6 months to sell it before it's obsolete. Think about that. We live in a period of time of instant product obsolescence. We live in a period of time in which change is happening so quickly, it's absolutely staggering. And that's what everybody in the world of manufacturing is focused upon. I'm not a big fan of Rupert Murdoch, the global media magnate, but he made an observation years ago. If you think about what's going on, there's so much change happening. It's happening so fast, at such speed, that increasingly it's not big organizations will win and own and control the future. It's the fast. And that's why when I wrote my latest book, I called it "The Future Belongs to Those Who Are Fast." And that's what's going on in the world of manufacturing. What we are witnessing with North American and global and Western manufacturing is an industry that has worked incredibly hard to reinvent itself. I wrote down a little list of what has happened with North American manufacturing, what has happened with Western manufacturing during a period in which the news media story has been we've witnessed this massive decline in North American manufacturing capabilities. Not at all. Not at all. Because I've witnessed manufacturing companies who are focused on time to market. How do we accelerate our production cycles to do things faster? How do we get involved in a world of mass customization? How do we challenge ourselves in terms of agility and flexibility? Anybody ever seen the Magna plant in Graz, Austria? Where essentially they've built up so much flexibility into their manufacturing process that on one line, they're a contract manufacturer, on one line, they can bring down a BMW, the next vehicle is a Mercedes, the next vehicle is an Audi. They have built in so much flexibility and capability. You think about what's going on in the world of manufacturing. We're seeing the arrival of the digital natives. We've got kids coming into the profession, coming into plants with their iPads and saying, where can I plug in? Where can I do AutoCAD? You know, where can I help you in terms of rapid prototyping, rapid testing, rapid product development? We go through a laundry list of how this industry has changed itself to deal with a future, in which the future belongs to those who are fast. It is absolutely staggering. And then, Kennametal is sitting back and they're thinking, okay, what do we do to further accelerate the opportunities for change in this industry? What do we do to continue reinvention of the industry, continue this renaissance in the industry? And so they're having you here today to hear about the concept of Novosphere. And we have here a group of panelists who are passionate about the opportunities for change in the industry. And what we want to do is have a little discussion about what is going on. So we have John Reed, marketing manager with CG Tech, Pete Dragic, VP with Kennametal, Andreas Heimer of the Heimer Group, Alexander Zoller, check out his shoes, these are really cool, president of Zoller, and Dan Fraisonet with DP Technology. We live in a world in which 50% of the knowledge that we learn the very first year of a college or university program is obsolete or revised by the time we graduate. There's a skills crisis. Is everybody talking about the skills crisis? What's going on with the skills crisis? Pete, tell us about the skills crisis. Why is it so big and why is it such a challenge?
The skills crisis for us is an urgent need. The skills crisis for us is an urgent need to address. We have aging demographic in the industry. The technology, as Jim talked about, is just advancing at a mind-boggling pace. And not only do we need to take that information that is in all those individuals' brains and translate that into something that we can sustain, we need to recognize, as Jim said, that it's changing so fast beyond that we need a means to enable us to not only deal with that change, but to take advantage of the opportunity we have with systems like Novosphere. As we go forward, the foundation of this will be taking all that information that, in this case, in Kennametal, for the last 75 years has been developed, putting that into a digitized version that we can access and leverage and ensure not only internal to Kennametal that we're taking advantage of that information and sustaining it, but we're providing it to customers. And customers are then able to benefit from that as well. But as we go forward, that's just the beginning. Things are changing so fast that we need to be incorporating, a learning organization and putting that information back into there so that we continue to add incremental value to customers.
You don't have a flip phone, right? You've got a smartphone, not a flip phone. Dan, you've got a client, 3 Points Aviation, Charlottetown, yes. PEI.
Yes.
And tell your story as to what you've seen with them in terms of what they can accomplish.
Yeah, what we've seen, they're an example of automation and knowledge base. So basically what they did, they gathered the knowledge from their own people, digitized it, put it in a computer, with tools and so on. And so what they do, they can very, very quickly generate parts that weren't done before in a matter of hours. Another example is a Flowserve company. To give you an example, numbers, last year they generated over 50,000 separate parts, CNC programmers, with 2 engineers only. All the knowledge had been digitized. Now the problem that we had until the Novo actually is that the knowledge is based on the knowledge itself, but it has to act upon a database, upon digital data, and there was no data. So some company, maybe 10% of them, can afford to do this. They have the time and money to take the data, digitize them, and bring them into their system. But the little guys just can't do this. And so for the first time with the Novo, what's going on is Kennametal is bringing digital data that can be used directly. So now any small company, anybody will be able to take this data with knowledge that they bring along and use them. So this is going to increase a huge amount of speed in production and generating NC system, basically.
Right, and so they can essentially be in a situation where now they can get in a part for a 40-year-old airplane and have that part come in. You obviously can't buy that on the shelf today. And they can examine it, they can prototype it, they can build it, they can churn it up 24 or 48 hours?
Yeah, 48 hours,
that quickly. So, there's an example of a small company in aviation who can now do amazing things in terms of manufacturing and subscribing to that theory that the future belongs to those who are fast. You're dealing with Lufthansa. Similar situation, bigger company. What's going on there?
Similar situation, big company. What we have done there is they were challenged with multiple databases. They had multiple databases for stock, multiple databases in the CAD/CAM system, multiple databases for presetters. So they had to maintain different databases. And what we were able to do, we came in, we installed a tool management software, put everything on one database. So only to install and maintain one database is a huge benefit. But now the question is, who is putting in this data? It's a lot of work. Putting in a data for a single component in a database takes about, if you do it right, 30 minutes. 30 minutes per single component. Now look at Novo app. Novo app, you go out, you search for your tool, your component, you hit a button, and the information is immediately there. Huge, huge advantages with the help of the Novo sphere.
Because you're seeing a lot of efficiency gains. You're seeing a lot of, we're not double entering data, we're not doing the same thing over and over again. It's sort of like the early days of ERP systems when we reinvented our process to do things in new and different ways. And I think what folks are talking about here is if we have this disappearing knowledge, if we have these skills going out the door, if we can capture that knowledge and reuse it and repurpose it, it can help us deal with the skills crisis. It can help us become more efficient. It can help us in terms of the renaissance that we're trying to affect in manufacturing. In terms of virtual technology, in terms of the virtual space, John, you've got a fascinating story as to what you're doing here.
Yes, well, most of you know CG Tech's Vericut product is a CNC machine tool simulation product. And of course, before you can simulate the CNC manufacturing process, you must have data. And what we've seen over the last few years is the much greater availability of data, much less reluctance from machine tool companies, cutting tool companies to provide that data. When all that data comes together, you can really increase the efficiency of the manufacturing process. And the example I have is of the Danish toy manufacturer, Lego, who you might not think of as a high-tech engineering company, but in fact, because of their introducing different product models on a very short cycle, as Jim was talking earlier, they have a huge requirement to produce dies and molds to produce these parts. And they've now completely automated the process of programming, simulating, and manufacturing the parts to the point where there's no operator involvement. So they will program the part in a CAM system, they will simulate in Vericut. We produce error logs during that cycle. As long as those error logs are clear, indicate no problems, the program goes to the shop floor and gets run without any prove out, without any operator involvement. Only if our error logs show a problem is somebody sent a text message, they might be off shift, they run 24 hours a day, and someone has to come in and intervene in the process, but only if we find a problem in the process. So they've completely automated the process. Working smarter, working faster, reinventing themselves in very significant ways. There's a lot of talk about the cloud. A lot of, it's a buzzword that is out there in every single industry, in every single aspect of the world today.
But I think part of what these folks are discovering and what these folks are talking about is there is an opportunity that is emerging here at a very fast speed to share the commonality of information. Andreas, when you think about the cloud, and you think about Novo, and you think about what is going on, what does this really mean in terms of skills and capabilities and reinvention of the industry?
I think it's a very good opportunity for the industry to reinvent himself, because the young people nowadays, you know, they get trained, educated in a totally different way, and the problem of our industry is that it seemed to be old-fashioned, labor, working manually, getting the experience, the cutting data, experiencing them themselves at the shop, finding out what is the best way. Basically what Novo and what this new developments are providing to the industry is that the younger generation basically can come and they have a different sort of skills going online, working with all these app-based applications, and so they can basically take on that job in our industry and help in upgrading our productivity and solving the productivity problem, because folks like Kennametal and experts like Kennametal, they try it out 75 years and prove it. How does the cutting tool data run? What is the best way of running it? The old-fashioned way of trying it out themselves at the shop basically is a lot of duplicate work, a lot of work that can be avoided. So with Novo, they give you the optimal sweet spot where the machine can run, how you can use it, and the younger generation feels appealed to it because they know how to handle it, what is this app-based environment, and so it will help the transition in our industry and make it much more attractive in the future.
So the concept of rapid prototyping, have you seen a lot of change in the last several years? Your ability to prototype faster, test faster, bring product to market faster?
Well, rapid prototyping is a very important tool for us in developing new products, basically looking at the new products, but it's a little bit more than that. It's not only to rapid prototyping, because 20 years ago we already talked about digital revolution in the industry, but what really makes it right now, I would say, is that what makes it possible right now is that we now have the hardware, such from Zoller or from us, in terms of measuring the equipment, the surroundings, the environment in the shop. They're now given, and we can actually all work together with these informations and implement it. 20 years ago, we have not been so far, but this is what makes it really different with the approach from Kennametal and with Novo, that we really can implement it now and we can work with it without those barriers that have been confronted 20 years ago.
John, you're witnessing the same trends with prototyping, faster to market, test time?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Because you can prove everything out in virtual reality, you really eliminate the shop floor prove-out process by capturing the data and proving out processes. And we're seeing this across all of our customers, that they're completely eliminating manual prove-out, and you can optimize and prove the process in virtual reality and get to market quicker. Absolutely.
Let's grab another buzz phrase here. Everybody's hearing about the Internet of Things, right? That's one of the biggest buzz phrases in the world of business, manufacturing, automotive, everything today. And I do a lot of healthcare talks, and I often will go on stage and make a little joke that everything in our life is about to become plugged into the internet. Every device which is a part of our daily life is going to have connectivity. And my little joke for the healthcare crowd is, it could get weird, could get out of hand. One morning, I'll get on my weigh scale, and it's going to send an email to my fridge. Don't let Jim in today. He's not living up to the terms of his wellness contract. It's not a joke. Anybody seen the Withings Wi-Fi body scale? Have you gone into the Apple store and witnessed the devices which are coming out, which have connectivity built into them? Nest. The Nest story is absolutely fascinating. Here you've got a company, one of the key designers of the Apple iPad. He leaves Apple, and he's thinking, what am I going to do next? What's my next gig? How am I going to change the world? He looks at the thermostat on his wall, and he thinks, it's not connected, it's not intelligent, it's not programmable, it's kind of a dumb device. Why don't I change that? And so he develops this fascinating product, which is got the iPad look, it's got that Apple look and feel, it's got connectivity built into it, it's linked into the internet, there's an app for it by which you can manage your energy, air conditioning, heating use, and study yourself in terms of how you are using energy compared to your neighbors. They just sold it for $3.2 billion to Google. This is a real story. This is stuff that is really happening. And let's think about, you know, the world of the Internet of Things in manufacturing. There's two big trends. Every device we're manufacturing is going to have connectivity built into it. We're going to be aware of its status. We're going to be aware of its location. Remember that guy, the location intelligence professional? Think about what is happening here. So all the devices that we're manufacturing are going to have this intelligent connectivity capability built into it. But it's not just that. The manufacturing process itself is going to be changed with the emergence of the Internet of Things. Who wants to start on that one? Pete, what do you think is happening with the world of manufacturing with the Internet of Things?
I think the world of manufacturing is just moving at a mind-boggling pace with the Internet of Things, and the opportunity for us to connect devices that potentially didn't even exist not too long ago, let alone start to talk to each other. You know, we look at, as we move forward, the ability for us to, as Jim said, focus on what's happening from our shop floor all the way to our customer and potentially even the using point and everywhere in between. Connecting all these devices not only allows us to drive speed, which is critical to our growth, but it's going to allow us to do it more efficiently so that we can be more competitive in the market, but then also to go beyond just manufacturing, working with customers as far as what their future demands are, ensuring that we're there and capable and ready to support them with whatever they need to be successful is going to go through the entire supply chain.
Dan, you mentioned to me that there's an element of the Internet of Things that involves quality,
Yes.
reliability, tracking.
Yes, definitely the reliability also. And so if you look at this, for example, a company like Kennametal, I don't know how many tooling elements they have, but it's 300, 400,000 pieces. So now when you talk about connecting things, the Internet of Things, you have to connect them. So there is a connectivity issue. We can resolve it. It's easy. There is knowledge. What do you do with this thing? This can be done too. But the big thing that was missing were the data. Just think about it. You have 400,000 elements, and you don't know what they are. So you have every single manufacturer in the world that is within their own shop defining every element that they need. And they don't only define them element, 1, 2, for example, they define it for a CAM system, they define it for a simulation system, they define it for a tool setting system, pre-setting system. It's non-stop. So now, with the Novosphere, basically, Kennametal is taking responsibility for this data, generating the data once, and the data is out there now for everyone. So we are talking about accuracy, reliability, it's the same thing over and over, and the whole world can use it. So now the Internet of Things can really become a reality because all these connected devices, whenever they need data, they have access to them. So coming from a CAM perspective, I can just go get the element that I need. Any one of my customers has this, it's instant. Same thing for John, okay, same thing in any system. So highly reliable, highly accurate, and it's gonna be everywhere, basically.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, beyond the data, it's really what do you do with the data? And the analytics that go along with that are amazing as far as what we're going to be able to do to drive process improvement and the speed to the market. But even beyond that, when we talked about the skills gap and attracting, you know, new talent, people that get excited about, you know, a job that isn't just manufacturing, it's really scientific. It's the analytics that will allow them to be major contributors to improvement in the future.
Give me an example. Where will this lead us to? What will we be able to do that we can't do now?
Things that we can't do today is you know, and we're doing this in our Kennametal plants, is actually having real-time visibility of what's happening on the shop floor. We'll go in today and we'll leverage Novo to say, you know, here's the process we should use to make this CAD drawing that a customer provided to us. Here's the tools we should use. Here's how we should make it. Yet it goes out to the shop floor and we don't know, quite frankly, in most cases, did we run that process as intended? Did we get the desired result? For the places where we have put the Novo optimized tool in place, we have that. And it's been amazing relative to the productivity that we drive, 20 to 30% improvement. That's learning that we would have never gotten in the past. The learning that we also get from that is we're finding out in some cases that what we think should happen, the floor figured out how to do it better. We didn't know that. That's happening at one plant. We have that same process around the world. When we can replicate that and replicate that quickly with speed, customers all benefit from that and we help them to grow as well as
So a lot more predictive capabilities are
Absolutely.
emerging. Okay. Einstein once made the observation, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result each time, that's how we define insanity. So you know, here we are, you know, in the midst of an industry that is rapidly reinventing itself, and essentially saying what we are going to do is we're going to, you know, build an open source platform to share insight, to share data, to do things in a different way. Does this make any sense? Does it make sense where we could potentially have competitors operating in an environment in which they are sharing fundamental information that's never been done before? Does that make sense? Are people going to subscribe
at the end of
to
the
idea?
day, we solve the problems of our customers. So we want to make our customers getting higher productivity, close this knowledge problem, basically eliminate their problems and increase the productivity. And it's so important for global manufacturing companies. We see our customers like machine tool companies like Grope, they have multiple plants in Germany, in the USA, in Brazil, in China, and they need basically all these informations, and they run into problems if they don't standardize and they don't get the same productivity, not only for the software, but I have to repeat that also the hardware, the equipment, the infrastructure only makes it possible. We have a good example where they couldn't run a certain application in Brazil because they didn't put it on a presetting machine or one of our balancing machines. So they had this cloud data, they wanted to apply it, but basically on the local infrastructure it didn't work. So that's something that is real, and if the customer can use various data, various cutting data from different companies, he can solve his problem and get that product that will solve his problems, basically.
Pete,
I think just to add to what Andreas said, I mean, this is about how do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace. We're not just trying to bring a tooling solution. We want to bring more value than that. And that's what this is about. This is something that a customer, you know, sees and can benefit from, and will allow us to separate ourselves from the competition.
Sorry, go ahead.
One of the direct consequences that you can see is literally a revolution. If you look back at the computers 30, 40 years ago, whenever you had to print something, okay, you had to connect the printer, RS-232 drivers, I mean, it's a non-stop thing. It was a lot of work. Today, you go to a store, you buy a printer, you plug it, that's it, it works. The same thing will happen now in the machine tool industry, because the data is coming in, the digital data are there, the knowledge is there. So basically, we can have the next generation of machine tool, a plug-and-play machine tool. You'd be able to buy a machine tool, plug it in, that's it. I design this thing, I click machine, and it just does it itself. How does it do it? Through this connection, it will gather the knowledge, okay, grab the tool, and it knows everything, so it can just make it, okay? So I think it's a big revolution myself.
And a huge part of what is occurring here is a very significant change in the skills level required.
Yes, absolutely. For the skill level, what we call the bottom skill, the baseline skill, in other words, how to do things, cut things, what tool, this will be captured by the cloud, by the computer, by the system, by the novospheres. So the next level of skill are people who are more into thinking and more into optimizing things. So if I make this thing and it costs me $10 to make it and it takes an hour on a machine tool, my job now is not how to make this thing, it's how to make it better. So can I cut it down to 10 cents instead of $10, and can I do it in 5 minutes? If I can do this, then I will succeed. And I could be a small shop in the Midwest or anywhere, and I have a great chance because now I can optimize this thing, and I can definitely, because I'm the fastest, I think better, I can definitely beat any large corporation who is too slow to move, okay? So I think it's going to change a lot of things, definitely.
Well, you mentioned the Midwest. So 2 years ago, I went out to Davenport, Iowa, and a robotics manufacturer, Genesis Systems. I'm sure many of you know them. And you know, one of the most fascinating quotes that I had from the CEO when I was talking to him, pre-planning as a leadership meeting, I'm going to talk to his team. He made the observation, the industry is changing so fast that the skill level required of any type of machinist, anybody in manufacturing, it's almost as if they have to be able to do trigonometry in their heads, right? The skill set is increasing. The demands on skills are increasing at such a furious pace. And you know, is this part of the process of trying to elevate that skills capability? Is this going to help to take us there, and how will it help to take us there?
I think it helps to take us there, right, because it automates it, right? If you can go back years when even computers or calculators and those types of things got introduced, it allows that to happen quicker. happen more consistently and happen more accurately. But I think more important, even beyond that, it's attracting the right type of talent that has an interest in that type of advancement.
And there's a huge part of it, because we're not having kids, you know, thinking about coming into the world of manufacturing. They're thinking still of going into banking. They're still thinking, you know, about sexy industries. But this is the digital generation. We're witnessing the emergence of these digital natives coming into the workplace, and they think in new and different ways. Here's some things to think about in terms of this next generation. A survey was done of that generation, 21, 25-year-olds. What's a long-term career? 2 to 5 years. When asked, which is more secure, self-employment or a full-time job? Self-employment. They're very entrepreneurial. They are a generation that goes out and defines their own careers. And here's a staggering number. This came out of a survey in Ireland. 67% of this generation admitted on their very first day in a new job, they're already thinking of another job. You're having your introductory interview with them. You're talking about your rules, procedures, here's our policy manual. They're looking straight through you and thinking, I'm bored already, I gotta get out of here. So part of the challenge with manufacturing is how do we draw these skills, these kids, these young people into the industry? And this is a technological solution to that
What's so
challenge.
exciting about this, based on what you just said, is that we're just scratching the surface of what this can be in the future. So think about the young people that can come into this, not only contribute to what we need today, but shape that future, determine what those next career paths will be for themselves. This industry has the ability to provide that.
Right. And I don't think people appreciate the scope of the change that is occurring. I always like to do this with a group. How many of you, the very first computer course you ever took involved learning, you answer too, involved learning COBOL, BASIC, or Fortran? Pull up your hands. Look around the room, right? We are the generation of people who meant the punch card. Do not fold, spindle, or mutilate. Right? Remember that? Still don't know what spindle means. And so we have a very unique relationship with technology. We are a very different generation. But my sons are 19 and 21. They have never known a world without the internet. They have never known a world for the last 10 years in which they haven't had the entirety of human knowledge on their mobile device. And they're coming into the workplace. They're generating the knowledge they need to do to generate their next career. And they're coming into the world of manufacturing. And do you think, the Xbox generation is going to come into a world of manufacturing that's going to be boring, that's going to be routine, that is not going to involve excitement? So will this really be a tool? Will this be an opportunity to pull them in and provide them new ways of doing things?
I think that one of the challenges is to make engineering attractive to young people, and I think that's a challenge we all have to take on board. We've got a lot of exciting things, but certainly in the UK, the big challenge is to make engineering an exciting career. It generally isn't. Manufacturing doesn't have the image. There is starting to be a bit of a rebirth. There are starting to be some more advanced apprenticeships. There's starting to be some momentum behind encouraging people into engineering, but it's a long way to go. I don't think engineering is seen as an attractive digital opportunity, and that's a challenge for all of us, I think, to make it so.
I think it's a big challenge because one manufacturing job usually pays for 3 to 4 service jobs. So it's basically, we regard it as the backbone of our industry and economy, and I think only going service has proved out to be a mistake. And in the past 20, 30 years, especially in the Western countries and the Western economies, we have seen that we need our own value creation in-house. And I think the young people nowadays, they have a different skill set, like you mentioned, that with these new tools, with this connectivity, they can implement it. And it's also a big part of the image. Like if a young person still thinks about manufacturing, he thinks about dirty floors and dirt and leaning under the machine and oil dripping or something. But if you visit like production facilities from Kennametal or from us, they are much more in a lab environment. So white floors, new machines, state-of-the-art technology, simulation, CAD/CAM, all these implementations, and I think it's our joint efforts must be done in order to make the jobs in our industry more sexy, so to speak, that the young people also with tools and this internet and connectivity, they maybe more feel appeal towards it instead of just the old-fashioned image and way of doing it before.
So a cooperative effort to share insight, information, and data as part of the process of reinventing the industry. Alexander, where is this going to put us in 5 years? What do you think the end result of this type of spirited thinking is going to
I mean, at the moment we are in a move with this new technology, and we have to really get a lot of things also still in place in the next 5 years. It's really difficult to say for me what will really happen. I mean, it's at the moment a very big and fast move going forward. We talk a lot about skill sets, but it's also a lot of work today. I mean, if you want to set up a job, you have to enter tooling information into a system. And with Novo, what Kennametal will provide, the work is reduced, the efficiency will increase. This is very important, and it's in the next 5 years, I think it's standard. You go to your internet, you download your tools, and here you go.
Dan, 5 years out?
Yeah, it's going to change quite a bit, even in terms of hiring kids and so on. I think it'd be major, because until now, just think about it. What they had to do, a lot of the job, they had to create data. Okay, so when you go from job to job, you always have to create data, and it's the same thing, and it's over. I mean, it's pretty boring. As now we are getting with the Novosphere, we are getting where the data are there. So what you do now, you use them. So as a kid, it's more like a video game, okay? You got the thing, you got your computer, you got your thing, you can use them, put them together. So I think it's becoming much more interesting. So there will be a renaissance, basically, even in terms of the people coming into manufacturing. They'll be much more up to do it than ever before.
Pete got really excited here as soon as you mentioned video game. You had
Well,
some
no, I just wanted to give a quick story about an individual that joined Kennametal a couple of years ago. And we had a very bright engineer that joined our company to be part of what we refer to as our operations leadership program. And it's a 2-year program. They get to rotate through 3 8-month assignments and then ultimately go into a permanent job in Kennametal. And this individual could have had his choice to go to a lot of different companies and chose Kennametal, not only because of that program, but because one of the rotations involved being out on the shop floor and helping to develop the optimized portion of Novo. I wish he was here today, because the level of engagement, the excitement, the opportunity he sees to contribute to the future is fantastic.
So it's not just the skills exodus that we're dealing with here, with all this knowledge disappearing out of the industry. It's the skills issue of making the industry more attractive to this next generation.
It's so attractive to him now that in his permanent assignment, what he wanted to do was be part of the ongoing development of what is this going to look like in the future, and we're giving him the opportunity to do that. Right? Where else could he find something like that?
Yeah, I got to tell you one little story here. I was dealing with a engineering firm that was based in a ski resort, and they had a series of interviews with this engineer they were trying to hire, and they made him a job offer. And 2 days later, he called in, and he turned down the offer. And they were mystified. They thought, they had a really good discussion. So the managing partner called the kid, and he told me, the discussion went like this. He said, we're kind of mystified as to why you didn't accept our job offer. And the kid responded, well, dude, you're messing with my powder. He said it exactly like that. Dude, you're messing with my powder. And the managing partner kind of goes, what do you mean? He said, well, I went in and met you, had the interview, and you talked about your 9 to 5 hours. You talked about your job policies, you talked about your structure, you talked about, I would have to be there for the Thursday afternoon project meetings, and all I saw, dude, was structure. And I mean, I can get the work done, but you're messing with my powder. 10 a.m. there could be really good ski conditions, and I'm going to be out skiing. I can get the work done, I can plug in from anywhere, but all I heard from you was structure, structure, structure. He turned down the job because it was messing with his powder. These kids think in a fundamentally different way, right? And so that's part of what we're trying to accomplish here is how do we, don't want to use the phrase, how do we make the industry sexy again to draw in that next generation of virtual workers? So
I think we mustn't be limited by our own imagination. I think there are so many different ways that this could go that it's very difficult to predict what's happening in 5 years' time because we're limited by the way we understand the industry. An anecdote on the Internet of Things, my son is involved in a software company that's developing software for the Internet of Things. And he said to me, Dad, did you know that in a couple of years, most of the cows in North America are going to have an IP address?
They will. I just actually spoke 2 weeks ago in Denver at the Colorado Cattle Feeders Association. You can take any industry right now, and it's staggering to think about the implications of connectivity. Look, here's the thing. Here's what you want to think about. Bill Gates once made the observation that most people overestimate the rate of change that's going to occur on a 2-year basis. They underestimate the rate of change that will occur on a 10-year basis. You know, so I want to challenge you this way. Do you think the world of manufacturing 10 years out is going to look anything like it does today? Not at all. It will have been reinvented. It will involve different skills, different capabilities, different agility, different flexibility, different business models. And it goes back to that phrase, the future belongs to those who are fast. So thank you very much for your time.